As we've been reporting, gasoline prices have surged sharply recently, squeezing household budgets and rattling the economic engines of cities like Houston, where the boom and bust cycles of the oil and gas industry touch the finances of nearly every family in the region. To help us understand what this sharp price spike means for Greater Houston, we're joined now by Loren Steffy, author, writer-at-large at Texas Monthly, and managing director of 30 Point Strategies. He spent decades chronicling the energy industry and its impact on American life. Welcome back, Loren.
Thanks for having me back, Craig.
How does a spike like this ripple through the broader Greater Houston economy beyond just what people pay to fill up their tanks?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, everybody feels the price at the pump, but it has a much broader impact in terms of, for example, food prices, right? I mean, all the food that gets delivered to your grocery store is delivered primarily by diesel trucks, and diesel fuel is costing a lot more. So you're going to see an impact at the grocery store as well as at the gas pump. And beyond that, this could also cause some fertilizer prices to rise in different parts of the world. So it could affect food production costs over the longer term as well.
For working families in Greater Houston, many of whom also have long commutes and maybe an older vehicle, how significant is this sustained increase in gas prices in terms of a monthly budget?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you have a long commute, which many people in Houston do, the older your car is, the less fuel efficient it is, the bigger the cost impact can be. And I think the question that everybody's trying to figure out right now is how long this is going to last.
You've written extensively about the volatility in the energy industry. Is there a historical parallel that you're coming back to as you look at what's going on right now in Iran?
Well, I mean, we've seen oil disruptions in the past, but anytime there's strife in the Middle East, we've seen oil prices spike. But I think the difference here is that we haven't seen this sort of situation that we're seeing in the Strait of Hormuz, which is that choke point where about one-fifth of all the world's oil supplies go through. Oil's not getting through. The tankers are not going through that area because they're afraid of being attacked. And as a result, supplies are backing up, and we're starting to see producers in the Middle East actually curtail some of their production because they don't have any place to go with the oil. And that's really kind of a unique situation. It's almost reminiscent of the 1970s, although in that time, the curtailment of production was deliberate. And so in this case, I think the big question is, can we do anything to ease that bottleneck? And at least in the short term, there doesn't seem to be an obvious answer to that.
If that cannot be addressed and this does drag on beyond a few weeks' time, I mean, comparing this to the 1970s, all I can think of is, wait a minute, are we talking about gas lines here?
It probably won't come to that. That was an extreme supply issue, and interestingly, part of the reason we're in this situation is for a while now, U.S. presidents have been emboldened when it comes to energy policy because the U.S. is such a large producer of oil, and so given what we're producing in the Permian Basin, we have a little more flexibility in global markets in terms of supply. So I don't think we're going to see gas lines, but we could see a lot of price fluctuations in the coming months.
We do inevitably hear anytime prices go up calls for more domestic drilling, maybe releasing fuel from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We also, of course, hear from the administration that there's plenty of oil out on the global market and that this is a temporary situation. Are any of those levers actually effective in the short term, though, when we're talking about the main problem here of gas prices being very high?
Well, I mean, you can open the SPR. That's a political decision, right? And that will have some impact on the market. And indeed, you've seen some European leaders already talking about releasing some of their petroleum reserves. But the problem there is if this is a prolonged situation, then those releases at some point are going to run out. And so if you release all that oil now, then if prices spike later, you're kind of caught. In terms of increasing production domestically, you're just not seeing it right now. I mean, nobody's willing to make that kind of investment until they know that these prices are going to be sustained long term. And keep in mind that before all this happened 10 days ago, oil prices were actually fairly low, and producers in the Permian Basin couldn't make money at the prices that we were seeing. So I think at this point, everybody's kind of sitting and waiting and trying to figure out what the short and long-term implications of all this are going to be.
There's also a phenomenon that economists refer to as demand destruction. Basically, oil prices go up, so gas prices go up, so people drive less. Do you see something like that happening should this extend more than a matter of a few weeks?
Well, and the threshold for that demand destruction is $100 a barrel oil, right? And we saw that yesterday. Prices kind of rocketed past that threshold and then have come back down a little bit. But we're still kind of flirting with that level of pricing, and so that is a concern. And keep in mind, along with demand destruction, what we have historically seen in the United States when we hit those levels of oil prices, it's not just that we use less oil, that people start cutting back. It also tends to drag the economy into a recession. So there's sort of broader economic implications to what's going on as well.
Among the broader economic implications, we got to bring it up obviously every time we talk, as well we should, is what this means for the oil and gas industry here in Greater Houston. Upstream and downstream, who's benefiting, who's potentially hurt, should this be sustained for any period of time?
Yeah, well, we always talk about Houston being a city divided, right? On the east side of town, where you have all the refining capacity and stuff along the ship channel and whatnot. Obviously, these are higher raw material costs, and that can cause them to see their profit margins squeezed. They're going to pass some of those profits or some of the higher costs on to consumers. On the west side of town, producers generally like high oil prices, but they don't like it in this kind of environment where there's a lot of global volatility and it's very hard to figure out what's going on. You're seeing a lot of those producers starting to hedge to try to lock in some pricing, so at least they have a little bit of certainty going forward. But it's just a very, very difficult situation to read right now. And it's something that, quite frankly, the industry has been concerned about for a long time.
Yeah, I imagine if you work in oil and gas, you're used to the boom and bust cycle of it, and you're looking at oil prices suddenly leaping up to, briefly was it earlier this week, $120 a barrel. Then Brent crude went down to around 100. And I imagine you can't really make any medium or long-term decisions about oil production based off of those numbers when you don't know if they're going to drop back down in a matter of a week or two.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a very real chance that you could decide, oh, okay, oil prices are high, I'm going to drill now. And then by the time you bring that well online, prices have fallen back down to where you're losing money on every barrel you sell. And nobody wants to be in that situation. So it's really kind of created almost a sense of paralysis right now in terms of, it's kind of wait and see attitude.
So in the meantime, I guess we all just hunt around for the lowest gas prices and try and top off the tank when we can.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't necessarily advocate topping off your tank. That can lead to a lot of gas lines and stuff in and of itself. But certainly over the next, I would say, few weeks to few months, I think gas prices are going to be pretty volatile. So it's going to be tough for consumers.
Loren Steffy is the author of books about the energy industry. He's also a writer at large for Texas Monthly and the managing director of 30 Point Strategies. Loren, thanks very much.
Thank you, Craig. Good to see you.